You have the risk of collection wagons may have went to multiple sites, and you could have, biosecurity measures in place that the wheels all get washed down. But you're in the risk of costs going up. So typically at the moment, we're seeing costs of around €120 per tonne for waste to be taken away versus incinerating the waste of around €80 per tonne. It's given the farmer a chance to take back control of their biosecurity.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of The Pig Edge, your Teagasc Pig podcast with me, Emer McCrum, bringing you all of the latest news, information and advice to keep Irish pig farmers up to date. In this episode, we're discussing on-farm incineration, a method of waste management that has gained growing attention in recent years, but presently remains more uncommon on Irish units. To learn more, I'm joined by Derek Carr, Managing Director of Addfield, who will provide expert insights into the regulatory framework, practical considerations and environmental implications of on-farm incineration, as well as its relevance to pig farming in Ireland. And Derek, to what extent are pig farms suited for on-farm incineration, and how common is this practice across the UK and Europe?
It's extremely common. I think it's more the go-to solution for farmers to manage their fallen stock on site. It used to always be one of these things that you'll go to these exhibitions, whether they're in the UK or internationally, and the amount of Irish farmers that you'd have come to the site and say, we would love this piece of equipment, but we can't based on regulations and legislation. But when it came to the 2020s, in Ireland, they adopted EU regulations to allow farmers to have on-farm disposal, which typically means it burns less than 50 kilograms an hour. Because it came around the time of COVID as well, I think there isn't that many farms that realise it's actually a solution they can have on their sites. So where you asked the question regarding how common is it in the UK and Europe, the UK, I believe in the UK is very much more larger companies will have their sows and pigs on certain people's sites, and then they will support them with capital equipment for things such as fallen stock incinerators, where in Ireland it's very much more family-run farms, individual farms. So when you're working with organisations that have multiple sites, when you set a standard to say this is how we're going to manage biosecurity, they adopt that same standard across multiple sites. So it's not like you're trying to, a needle in a haystack and trying to get to every number. You're setting one standard that's across UK and Europe. But you'll typically find our machines in the UK, Europe, Asia, America, and some of the largest pig producers around the world. So it's a real go-to solution for managing their fallen stock.
Okay, perfect, Derek. And just you mentioned it there, the area of legislation. We might just look at that. Maybe what do farmers need to know about permits, planning, maybe environmental compliance in terms of the specific rules around on-farm incineration?
The animal byproducts regulation has been going for years. It's an EU standard, but it got changed to allow farmers to manage their fallen stock on site. So it allowed a low capacity permit, which is simply a permit that allows you to burn less 50 kilograms an hour of your own fallen stock, whether it's category 1 to category 3. To have a machine, typically you need to have a machine that's type approved or a manufacturer's declaration certificate to say that it will adhere to less than 50 kilograms an hour. And then it needs to have 2 combustion chambers. So one for the waste, and the second one is to clean the pathogens and retain those gases at 850 degrees Celsius for a minimum of 2-second retention time. So that's the permits that you need to have an incinerator on site. When it comes into the permits, so where do you actually find them? If you go to the Department for Agricultural, Food and Marine, there's a form that's AP34, and it gives you the criteria to have a low capacity incinerator on site. It's further supported then with to fit in with the accordance for the site is a CN34, and simply all it's doing is talking you through what your site would look like. So having a concrete base for the incinerator to be sited onto, a wash down area for when you're cleaning the machine down, and then it's making sure that you're having your machine serviced once a year. And you need to keep records as well. So where we talked about the secondary chamber at 850 degrees Celsius, 10% of all burns you're meant to record. A lot of people adopt a manual way. Here at Addfield, we record that automatically. So if it's any of the vets or animal health coming onto your site, or even just the fact of lessons learned for the farmer and looking at trends, you've got all that data that's saved onto the hard drive on the computer.
And I suppose maybe we'll move on and look at the nuts and bolts, if you like, of the machines. First off, maybe based on your experience, what considerations lead farmers to make the decision to invest in an incinerator?
I think when it comes to waste, nobody really wants to spend money on waste. It feels like you're spending on something that's not going to generate you a revenue. But we're very clear that we need to, it's farm to fork, and making sure that the farmers are in a position that they can put food on people's tables, and to support farmers with a robust biosecurity measure, with not having an incinerator on site and having collections. You have the risk of collection wagons may have went to multiple sites, and you could have, biosecurity measures in place that the wheels all get washed down. But you're in the risk of costs going up. So typically at the moment, we're seeing costs of around €120 per tonne for waste to be taken away, versus incinerating the waste of around €80 per tonne. So one, it's giving the farmer a chance to take back control of their biosecurity. Also, limiting the impact of having vermin. Obviously, for Ireland and the UK, we don't have the greatest weathers, but when we do have a bit of sunshine and you've got fallen stock that's there, you don't want to encourage vermin or flies or wasps or whatever it is around this waste. You want to be able to dispose of it as fast and as efficient as possible. So we're seeing that more farmers are looking at alternative measures instead of just having this waste taken away from their site.
Absolutely, Derek. I would even see that in any conversations I've had in this area. It does always relate back to biosecurity, so a massive factor in the decision-making process. Maybe to look then at the machine itself, what types or sizes of incinerators do you typically recommend for small versus large farms?
But this is where it comes into having a full range of machines. And Addfield, we've been designing and building incinerators since the 1980s. So understanding the size of the farms and their fatality rates will then allow us to accommodate with what size machine that they need. So all of them for on-farm disposal will still be less than 50 kilograms an hour. But obviously the size of a sow are the size of some cars. So the machine does grow in size, but the burn rate doesn't. So you still keep within the permit. So a typical machine can be, if it was just bacon pigs, you'll be looking at a machine that will have a capacity of like 350 kilograms. And the larger batch capacity machines is typically 2,000 kilograms. But the most common that we supply to farmers is a machine called an SB Agriculture, which has a batch capacity of up to 750 kilograms inside the machine. So that's the most common machine. But really, it's understanding we don't want somebody to buy the biggest machine and they only have 300 kilograms of waste each week. It's they'll be using more fuel to heat up the machine. So we want to make sure that they're getting a realistic return of investment, but it's an investment that they want to use and want to look after because they know it's doing the job that they need to protect their biosecurity.
Absolutely. So size specific to the farm and its own requirements then. Derek, what are the standard setup requirements for an on-farm incinerator, and how long does it take to install and actually get up and running?
Well, the one nice thing where we talked about the permits before with the AP34 and the CN34, it does give you some guidance there regarding siting. So the one thing is you can't have the same entrance for livestock and fallen stock, so you need to have its separate gated area. But because it's like an industrial piece of equipment, you typically find that farmers will put them in more of a remote location, so away from their sheds or from the livestock, and it will go onto a concrete platform that's 150 mil thick. Typically, you look at that's like 4 meters by 3 meters size, which the incinerator will site onto. And then if it's on, say, heating fuel or green diesel, you find that the tank's about 3 meters away. It's single phase 240 volt power supply 16 amp. So the machine only uses around half a kilowatt of electrical power. So really it's just to send signals to the fans and to the burners. And then when it comes in for lead time, so we've gone through the discussions with the client and we've addressed which machine that they need. Typically, manufacturing time is around 10 weeks from the point of deposit through to receiving the machine on site. And then the site setup, the machine can just be outside. We do try to promote to customers that it's better to even have a little lean-to that's just protecting the elements off the machine, because we find somebody using the machine, if it's torrential rain outside or it's dark outside, you find that people are rushing the process instead of it being under a basic shelter which protects it from the elements and just makes it a more better environment for the operator to use the equipment. But it only needs to be a simple structure. On-site time, the engineer will arrive, it will connect the fuel line to the machine, erect the chimney section, do some input and output checks on the burners and the fans, then start commissioning and training. So typically the engineers will be on site for no more than a day. Depending on the location or availability of staff, you may find it might go into the second day, but 90% of the installations for these low capacity incinerators are done within a day. The system's really easy to use. So you select the cycle of hours that you need. So let's say that they put 300 kilograms inside the machine. It's less than 50 kilograms an hour. So you're dividing it by the hours, which gives you 6. And then you add the 1 hour to get it below the 50 kilograms an hour. So it'll already be set into the system. You press go and the burners will modulate themselves. So the waste, with pig waste, it's really high in energy. So once it's got to a flash point, we're encouraging the burners to go off and encourage the waste to burn itself by injecting air into it. The key thing is keeping the energy where it needs to be. So we invest a lot of time on the refractories, which enables now this byproduct to be a fuel source for the machine. But yeah, it's really simple for the machines. I'm happy to share anyone who's interested some examples of some sites, whether they're outside the building or inside the building. But typically you'll find if it's outside, an expected lifespan on a machine, I'd say, is around 10 years. If you have it inside the building and it's been serviced and maintained, you look at it's more like 15 up to 20 years.
And Derek, if it's under a basic cover to protect it from the elements, is that still considered an outdoor incinerator?
Yeah, it's still regarded as an outdoor. So if it was the fact that, because this is a great question, we have this a lot where it comes into planning. So the incinerators fall under a permit, but if you have it into your existing buildings, so let's say that you have a barn and you want to now change it from an equine barn to put in a fallen stock incinerator in there, that's where you would need to go and get guidance from planning, because that's when they'll start to look at change of use of the building and how close is it to the house, for example. So they would look at saying how many chimney sections you may need on the unit. A lot of people do still have them in buildings, and they will go to planning, because we do a lot. We don't just build incinerators, we build cremators, waste to energy systems. So you can imagine not all of these machines are outside, but the benefit of having a low capacity permit and having it away from the buildings on its own concrete plinth and a basic shelter, it doesn't fall under the same planning requirements.
Very interesting. And maybe we'll talk numbers next, Derek. And you've already referenced the €120 versus the €80 as an example. But for a typical integrated pig farm in Ireland, can you maybe give us an idea of the upfront investment and the ongoing operational costs?
Obviously, every site's going to be different and every machine. So I'm just going to pick on one of our more popular machines for pig farmers, and obviously every site may have more fallen stock or less fallen stock. So I'm just going to go this to give a bit of an idea, and then obviously everyone can work out their own based on the figures that we're giving. So a typical incinerator for a Irish pig farmer would be an investment of around €28,000. And you typically find to incinerate, let's say, a ton of waste, you'll be looking at between 80 to 100 litres to incinerate this waste. So based on what you're paying on fuel versus what you're having on your collection costs, the data that we have is typically to incinerate a ton of pig waste on a farm site, you're looking around €80. Again, as I said, based on the information we have regarding fallen stock collection costs, you're looking at it's around €120 to take a ton of waste away. So if the farm had 3 tons a week and it was running it, say, 52 weeks a year, you're going to be looking that it's giving you a saving versus a collection cost of just over €6,000. So based on those numbers of a €28,000 investment, you're looking at it's just over 4 years to pay off the machine. But the key thing that we need to get out there then, it's the fact of you're protecting your biosecurity. So yes, you can get a return of investment of just over 4 years, but you're protecting your farm. You're not allowing vermin to get into bins or pig waste to just pile up. You're not having collection companies that have been to numerous sites, and you would hope that all biosecurity measures were measured, but you're not 100% sure. When it's your piece of equipment and you've got your own protocols in place, you have 100% confidence that you're adhering to all the biosecurity measures for your site. So it's two ways of looking at it. One is like an insurance policy, you're protecting your biosecurity, but also it's the fact that it's taking back control of your waste. The fallen stock scheme could turn around and say tomorrow, without any notice, that it's going up to €150 a tonne. And it's only ever going to go up. And when you start to see that all the things that farmers have to worry about, whether it's avian flu or African swine fever, being able to protect your farm more, I see it as like a key investment for farmers.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to biosecurity. And Derek, what kind of training or support do you provide to farmers after purchase? And maybe related to that, what routine maintenance would be required for your typical machine?
COVID was, if we all remember that time, obviously the farmers still had to work, and the same as us, we still had to work. But because we export to 150 countries around the world, it wasn't easy to get to other sites. So with looking at technology and how it can support farms around the world and other customers that we serve, it's not just looking at being on site, it's how else can we support people. So on the control panels as standard, there's QR codes on there. So if it was a fact of saying the fuel filter needed changing, you can scan the QR code, it will show you how to change your fuel filter. If it says how to clean the burner, as you've just talked about preventive maintenance, these burners are exposed to the animal byproducts inside the machine. So there's a lot of fats, lots of liquids. So getting the burner out and giving it a quick wipe around the diffuser and the blast tube, doing that on a call over the phone sounds simple, but seeing it as a video just brings it to life. So having those QR code videos available really help. For our international jobs, not so much in Ireland, but our ones that are further afield, we have online tutorial courses which allow us to do some videos, do some tests, but they've got the test at the end. They have to hit a pass level. So it makes us confident that they're competent to use this piece of equipment. But for Ireland, we really want to go out and commission the machine. We want to give a face to the business and show the farmer how easy it is to use, what are the things to avoid, how do we save more fuel, how do we do preventive maintenance, and actually give a hands-on show of it. So a bit of a multi-tool there of things that we do for companies, but we're very proud. We have our in-house technical team as well. So a lot of companies may have on-the-road service engineers. We have our in-house technical team as well. So I'd say a good 90% of the time, you can always get somebody on the end of a phone because there's out-of-hours support and there's in-hours support as well. So yeah, our customers are the most important thing for us, and I think that's reflective of the amount of repeat orders that we have from these larger organisations that may not have known Addfield from the beginning, but once they've moved over to Addfield, have continued to be a trusted partner of ours. So, yeah, I think that service is key for us. But where you said about other stuff, annual services is a key one. So the same way as your car, just have an annual service. Make sure the machine is calibrated so it's working to its optimum performance. And the serviceable parts are typically a fuel filter and a few nozzles. So it's not very intrusive, and a service will typically take about 3 hours on site.
Okay, super, Derek. And just when you mentioned there about maybe routine maintenance and cleaning out the chamber, what restrictions, if any, apply to the byproduct from incineration?
The incinerator is obviously there to destroy all pathogens and return it back to a nice clean ash. So there's 2 categories we look at there. SRM, specific risk material, and waste from poultry and from pigs. So when you do the incineration process, it turns all of this waste to 3% ash, which you typically find it's like a white, grey colour, and the volume's completely reduced down. If it's for pigs and poultry, the ash needs to be removed from the incinerator, because if you don't, that ash is just insulating the floor. And if you start doing that, you're using more energy to burn the waste. Really, you want the heat to get absorbed into the bricks to really generate some energy inside the machine. But the ash then can be mixed with your slurry, your manure, and can be sprayed back onto your land. If it's specific risk material, it needs to go into its own dedicated skip or containers, and it needs to be sent to landfill then. But for pigs and poultry, it can be mixed in with your manure and sprayed back onto your land.
And I know you already touched on this, but how are your incinerators designed to minimise environmental impact? Sort of related to our previous question as well. How do your incinerators meet emissions on air quality regulations?
There is regulations in place to ensure that you are getting rid of pathogens, managing the CO, making sure that any fly ash that's being generated, that you're controlling those. And that's exactly what this secondary chamber is designed for. So the secondary chamber is not to burn the material, it's there to clean the gases, clean the odours and clean the emissions. That's what it's there for. Animal byproducts, typically you find, including the fat content, you're looking about 80-85% moisture. So I try to, for somebody who knows nothing about incinerators, I try to think then maybe about a log burner. And a log burner, you use kiln-dried wood. So it's reducing all the moisture content out of there, typically below 20%. And that will ensure then that like the soot that gets into the chimneys doesn't become combustible. And that's typically what you'll get from creosote when it's wetter or high moistured woods or treated woods. That's why you use kiln-dried ones. The secondary chamber for incinerators now, we've just talked about pigs having a moisture content of 80-85%. Because of that, you are going to generate tar, you are going to generate like fly ash that could potentially leave the chimney. So to avoid that and to ensure clean combustion and burn off any of the carbons, you have a secondary chamber there to make sure that you're not having that risk of soot, smoke, smells leaving that secondary chamber. So that's the prime purpose of the secondary chamber, really to clean those emissions. If it was the fact that a log burner was using wet wood, and you start to see steam and smoke coming from there because it's trying to dry it out before it gets to the combustible energy of the wood, you'd find that there'll be regulations that then will be set up to say that you would have to have a post-combustion chamber to clean those gases. That's why the directive is focused more on having kiln-dried wood.
A very interesting topic, Derek. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for the invitation.
That's it for this episode of The Pig Edge, and a huge thanks to Derek for joining me on the show. Don't forget to listen and follow on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to make sure you never miss an episode. I'm Emer McCrum, and thanks for listening.